bringing you Thailand's insights. Special, exclusive, in-depth, from the direct source. Let's get inside. Gain the insight with the insider.
Welcome to the Insider. Sustainable development has always been at the heart of the Thai's national policy. For the past 70 years, Thailand and the Thai people have been blessed with a monarch who committed his life work to development and the well-being of the Thai people, His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej or King Rama IX. For decades, Thailand has made remarkable progress in sustainable development, starting with drone development study centers, royal development projects, and the sufficiency economy philosophy. With these fundamentals, Thailand successfully achieved almost all of the Millennium Development Goals before their target date. Now with the Sustainable Development Goals leading the global fight against poverty, malnutrition, and social injustice, Thailand is playing a leading role in bringing our tried and tested development approaches to the world. As Thailand embraces this role and as the sufficiency economy philosophy becomes a significant aspect of the Sustainable Development Goals, we are privileged to talk to the leading global development agency, the UNDP or United Nations Development Programme. Today, the Insider is very pleased to welcome Mr. Martin Hart Hansen, Deputy Resident Representative of the UNDP Thailand Country Office as our special guest. Hello, Mr. Hart Hansen. Thank you very much for joining the Insider this week. United Nations has placed particular importance on very important issue. I have heard about Millennium Development Goal and Sustainable Development Goal. What are they? Would you mind sharing with us?
First of all, thank you for having me on your program. So the Millennium Development Goals were the first of its kind in terms of setting a global development agenda. It was adopted in 2000 during the Millennium Summit in New York by all member states of the UN and were essentially 8 goals for developing countries to achieve by 2015. Now, what was special about the Millennium Development Goals were that they were very simple and precise and easy to communicate. They were also only for developing countries, except for goal number 8, which related to the partnership, the global partnership. Now, in 2013 or so, work then started on developing a new set of goals that were to take over from the Millennium Development Goals in 2015. And these were then named the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, the major difference between these is, first of all, there's 17 Sustainable Development Goals, so a lot more than 8.
From 8
to 17.
Yes.
They are also focused on much broader issues than the 8 Millennium Development Goals. There's much more related to environment and climate change and the planet. And uniquely, these are for everybody. These goals have to be achieved by every country in the world, not just the developing countries. So from a very developing country-focused agenda with the MDGs to a global agenda truly for everybody to achieve. Now, what's also critical to understand in the Sustainable Development Goals is that these goals cannot be achieved by governments alone. There is a need for a new partnership, new involvement by everybody. So governments need to work with the private sector, need to work with civil society, and need to work with the people. Otherwise, the Sustainable Development Goals are just not going to be achieved.
And what is your organization role? How does UNDP play your role?
So UNDP is the lead agency of the UN agencies in terms of sustainable human development globally. and have been facilitating the negotiations of the Sustainable Development Goals, have provided technical inputs to the negotiations that the member states conducted, and are now looked to as being one of the lead agencies to really drive the implementation at the country level. So both at the global level, at the regional level, and at the country level, UNDP is bringing together the UN system to support governments in their implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals.
Well, you mentioned about the MDG, the Millennium Development Goals. It has to be complete or meet the objective by 2015, right? But as for Thailand, we have been working long before that, and we were able to achieve the MDG before 2015. And of course, we have been working on the sustainable development by using or applying the sufficiency economy philosophy. What would be your comment on this?
You're right to say that Thailand actually more or less achieved all of the Millennium Development Goals, and some of them well ahead of time. Thailand even put in place what they called the MDG Plus, which was additional goals or putting an earlier timeline on some of the goals within the MDGs. And actually managed more or less to achieve all of these MDG Plus again. Not all of them, but it was a show of commitment by the Thai government to want to do more than just the Millennium Development Goals. Now, you can also say that Thailand kind of had a head start on sustainable development, specifically because of His Majesty King Rama IX's focus through his whole life on human development and on sustainable development. His unwavering commitment to sustainable and human development has really driven this agenda in Thailand long before it was on the global agenda. You can almost say that sustainable development is almost in the DNA of the Thai people because of the commitment of His Majesty to these issues, especially with his sufficiency economy philosophy, which already when it was coined by His Majesty had a lot of the elements that we now see in the Sustainable Development Goals. And it was also in recognition of this commitment that the UNDP back in 2006 presented His Majesty with the Human Development Lifetime Achievement Award, which was the first time the award was given to anyone. And in fact, it's the only time so far.
Oh.
So it really recognized the commitment and the legacy of His Majesty and his commitment to his people and to the sustainable development of the country.
So as for Thailand, in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, we take the sufficiency economy philosophy as the Bible for us. Has this been recognized by international?
At various events in New York, it has been presented to the other member states, and I think both the Secretary General acknowledged the value of sufficiency economy philosophy as a means to achieving sustainable development. And if you look at the details of the two agendas, sufficiency economy on one side and sustainable development agenda on the other side, there really are lots of similarities. Sufficiency economy talks about building resilience to external shocks. So farmers and individuals have to be able to handle external shocks. The Sustainable Development Goals also talks about building resilience to external shocks. Sufficiency economy talks about sustainable consumption. So don't overuse your environment, don't spend more than you can afford, and so on. And again, one of the goals in the Sustainable Development Goals talks about sustainable consumption and production. Environmental conservation is a key thing in His Majesty's philosophy. Environmental conservation is a major part of the Sustainable Development Goals. So there are lots of similarities that makes sufficiency economy a way to approach the Sustainable Development Goals.
Well, as for Thailand, we do believe that the SEP, Sufficiency Economy Philosophy, will help us and of course the developing country to pass through difficulty, particularly under the very competitive world. As you have been working in Thailand and working closely with agencies in Thailand, including the government, I would like to know about your role working in Thailand and how is the relation between UNDP in Thailand and the agencies in Thailand.
Our main partner, obviously, in Thailand is the government of Thailand, and that's regardless of what government is in place. UNDP works with the government. We work under what we call the United Nations Partnership Framework, which is a partnership framework for all UN agencies working in Thailand. And under that framework, we then develop a country program, which we work on with the government to put together. So we support the government with policy advocacy. That can be in supporting them to draft the new public procurement law, for example, which was adopted in December by Parliament. UNDP played a central role in making sure that that law was up to international standards. We work on other policy-related issues, such as creating incentives for investments in energy-efficient technology. But we also work at the community level, but with the government. So we support the Department of National Parks, for example, to work with communities in and around the national parks. We worked with the government to set up conservation trust funds up in Doi Intanon and other places in the country, where we bring in even the private sector to be funders of conservation efforts. These are a lot of the tourism companies that see a value in having a great environment and biodiversity in Thailand. So essentially you can say we basically connect people. We connect the government with the private sector, with the civil society, with the people on the ground. And I see that as UNDP's critical role in Thailand and across the world, actually, is that we are the connector. We bring people around the same table that didn't think that they should be sitting around the same table before we brought them to the same table. And so really trying to see the synergies that we can create by bringing people around the same table that aren't used to working together, and then facilitating that relationship and that partnership. But most of all, we come in behind the government to support them in their work on environmental conservation, on public procurement, anti-corruption, social innovation, sustainable tourism, and these kind of things. But bringing in partners from private sector, civil society into that mix as well.
And how do you see the working relation or environment in Thailand at the moment?
I think it's working pretty well, and I think there's an increased understanding of the need to involve society much broader than has been before. I think there's an increasing understanding of the need to work with the private sector, the need to work with civil society. You know, in Thailand and in many other countries across the world, there has been this kind of mistrust between governments and civil society. It's not unique to Thailand, it happens all over the world. But I think more and more there's now an understanding that we should trust each other. We're all working towards the same goal, so why not try and work together so we don't duplicate our efforts. And I certainly see a lot more commitment from the private sector as well to really want to be involved and want to contribute to the development of the country.
Development seems to be one thing or one agenda that the Thai people have been familiar for such a long time. And of course we have done this for such a long time. And from your observation, among the 17 development goals, what has been the most progress goal in Thailand?
The 17 goals were only adopted in end of 2015, so they only started technically last year. So it's difficult to measure progress already. I think Thailand had a head start on many issues, many of the environment and biodiversity conservation related issues. Thailand is already well towards the goal. I think issues around inequality could still get more stronger effort. I know that the government is already acknowledging this and working towards being more inclusive and trying to even out inequalities between different regions of the country. Education, Thailand is doing very well. There's, I think, if you look at the broad numbers, aggregate numbers, Thailand is doing pretty well. But what's important in the Sustainable Development Goals is that you break down the aggregate numbers and you look at individual population groups or individual regions. Because one of the taglines, so to say, to the Sustainable Development Goals is leave no one behind. Meaning the Sustainable Development Goals is for everybody. It is not measured aggregately, we have to measure it for everybody. So that level of granularity and understanding that an aggregate number doesn't necessarily mean that everybody is doing fine is what the world needs to understand, and I think also what Thailand is starting to understand and focusing on this leave no one behind. I mean, that tagline has even been adopted and mentioned several times by the Prime Minister as a key effort of Thailand to really leave no one behind.
If I ask you to prioritize, the agenda, what would be, the top priority?
It's very difficult to prioritize. They are all important and they're all interlinked in some way or another. I think goals around environmental conservation, climate change, climate action, life on land, life underwater are very important for. It's a whole group of goals that are related to the environment, and these are very important for the future. Because if we destroy our environment, then there's no point in living anymore because we won't have a planet to live on. So that's very important group. But also the goals related to inequalities, to poverty, to education, to governance are all very important too because they all play a role in also environmental conservation. If people are poor, they're more likely to exploit the natural resources. If governance structures are not properly in place, then you can't manage environmental conservation properly. So they all play a role together. I don't think I would single out one or two goals that are more important than others. I think it really shows that this agenda is a holistic agenda. It needs to be addressed as a whole. You can't just focus on one or the other.
What about in Thailand? What are the main challenges in the areas of development that you think that Thailand need to pay more attention?
The importance of working together. Government agencies, with the private sector, with civil society, with individuals, in a meaningful way, not in kind of token consultations, but really understanding that it is together that we will achieve these goals. We can't achieve them by ourselves. I think Thailand is increasingly starting to understand that, and I think that is something that needs to continue to be focused on. It's a joint effort. It's not one doing one thing, another doing another thing. We all have to kind of do it together.
In Thailand, we are working on the theme of the SEP for SDG, sufficiency economic philosophy to sustainable development goal. How are they related, and how can SEP support SDG of the United Nations?
They're related in that SEP focuses on many of the same things that really are underlying the Sustainable Development Goals. For example, the need for building resilience, for communities and individuals to be resilient to external shocks, for the need for environmental conservation, the need for moderation to basically consume sustainably. So there are very, very clear links between the two, and I think the fact that SEP was coined by His Majesty and the reverence that the people have in His Majesty is what's going to make SEP a useful tool in Thailand, because people will see their efforts in working towards the Sustainable Development Goals as a way of honoring the legacy of His Majesty. So the SEP has a real value, and part of that value is because it came from His Majesty.
Well, what about in regional level? how can Thailand play its role for the country and for the region?
Thailand has many great experiences and achievements that can easily be shared around the region and beyond, even with countries in Africa and other places. Universal healthcare, for example, is something where Thailand has really achieved great results and is a model for many other countries around the world. And so it's a question of finding those achievements that Thailand has made and bringing them to the world. And I think that's UNDP can help. We have offices in 177 countries around the world. We have a network already. We speak to governments in all of these countries, so we have a back door, so to say, into prime ministers' offices around the world, and can help facilitate that exchange of knowledge and experiences around the world. Thailand needs to be proud of what has been achieved and can very easily kind of share that knowledge with the world. And there's also experiences from other countries in the world that Thailand can learn from. Development results in countries like Singapore and South Korea, where UNDP played a very central role in the development of these two countries, as acknowledged by their government several times. These countries are ready and willing to share their experiences with Thailand as well, and show them this is what we did with UNDP. We can work with you as well. So Thailand is in a nice place where you have lots of experiences to share, but you can also actually gain experiences from other countries in the region.
If we want to achieve the SDG ahead of time, how can we do that?
I think Thailand is well on way to that. I think the focus of the government, even before the goals were put in place, Thailand playing a very central role in the negotiations in the open working group in New York that basically negotiated the goals, showed that Thailand was already ready to go and had already thought about these things for many years. So as I said, I think Thailand has a head start, and to keep that focus and to maintain the importance of this of sustainable development as a core principle of everything that you do. In every decision you make, you have to think about, is this a decision I make, will that affect my children's or my grandchildren's ability to make the same decision? That's basically what sustainable development is. You don't use resources to an extent that your children or your grandchildren can't use it when it's their turn. So I think to keep that focus and to keep the drive is what's going to help Thailand achieve, maybe before the deadline or the goal line.
Well, thank you very much for joining the Insider this week. I hope that your work in Thailand would be successful.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
When the UNDP presented the Lifetime Achievement Award to His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej in 2006, the Thai people rejoiced and reflected on how His Majesty and the royal family have been tirelessly devoted to their well-being for many generations. Now, more than a decade later, and with the recent adoption of the United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, Thailand and the Thai people are looking forward to playing a leading role in contributing to regional and global development cooperation. With this prospect and with support from UNDP, Thailand is confident of its path towards stability, prosperity and sustainability through the King's philosophy. Well, thank you very much for watching The Insider, and please stay tuned for the next episode. สวัสดีครับ